Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
Awesome. Welcome back to another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I'm your host, Cody Kelly. Look, I am super excited. First of all, it's a new year. It's a new season. It's freezing out. I got a beard. I'm going to get rid of that. Everything is just happening, and I'm so excited because I have two of my favorite guests. One is an amazing podcast host and realtor. She should be on Love It or Listed Atlanta. I know BT's coming out, but they don't have you, so I'm not going to watch that version. I'm going to watch the one on Netflix that's rated TVMA. That seems a little bit better. Carrie Jemmi was amazing. And then the author herself. I mean, if you knew who just ordered from her, you would be getting her book today. Candies Rose Bryant on the show. We're going to really uncover redefining and managing expectations. But since it is a new season, you know what you got to do to keep this thing going. You got to connect with me on IG at CVMK33. Subscribe to the YouTube page at CV Space K. We're all podcasts that's seen, heard, and felt. And also, started the supplement line. What you waiting on? You trying to get that 2022 body? I made the products just for you. Why'd you buy it? CVMKglobal.store. You don't have to be a baddie, but it is designed for that purpose. Protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, you name it, we're doing it. I got an amazing signature women's product coming out in a couple months that I'm working on. I've been keeping it on the low, but it's designed for that. Get yours today. I'm super excited about this episode. I'm super excited about my guests. And with that being said, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
I'm good. Happy to be here again.
No problem. Well, look, Happy New Year to the both of you. Thank you again so much for being on here. Carrie, I want to start with you. Saw your podcast episode with the comedian. I can't think of her name right now. And you said something, but without going into it, because that could be managing expectations is a real thing, right? Like, playing in other people's headspace is a dangerous activity that I think all of us catch ourselves doing, whether we agree with it or not, subconsciously, whether we do it or not. And I feel like, particularly at the beginning of a year, this is the most dangerous time, right? And what I mean by that is like everybody has this new version of themselves that they see, right? Everybody does it. Businesses do it. They launch new products at this time of year. Apparel does it, even in faith, if it's 21, 28, 17, 30, whatever. It's like this new initiative to get you really back on track. And I'm not against it, but I wonder, is it because we're trying to fit into something that, if we be honest with ourselves, it's not that we couldn't, but there's a lot of groundwork that has to be, to me, uncovered, laid out, and digged out before we could ever build that building. And my fear is that we go about these tasks mainly because we want to make others feel right about ourselves instead of ourselves first being healed. So I'm going to start with you, Carrie, because I know this is your land. I know you don't mind the controversy. Do you mind, or how do you manage other people's expectations?
Of me, my expectations of me, right? It's difficult. I will say it's difficult because it's difficult as a woman, because you don't want people to kind of allude to Candy's book, and when she talks about being a strong woman, you never want people to think that you're too vulnerable. Like, people used to say, "Oh, Carrie, you're so sensitive," and I used to hate that people said that because it made me think that I was weak. But I realized that being sensitive was a strength because now I have sympathy and empathy for people and things that people don't. They just dismiss it. But I will take a little step further and care a little bit more. So what I started to do was started to just kind of avoid people's expectations of me to be like a certain person. And like you were just alluding to, embrace who I really am. But you said something very important. You have to do the work. It is some work underneath foundationally that you have to do. And I remember talking to a spiritual person early last year, and I forget the word she called it, but basically she's like, you got to go into the dark corners of your life and really kind of talk to those different people throughout your childhood, your teenage years, like teenage Carrie, young adult Cody, you know, and you have to talk to those people, those different versions of yourself to realize where some things broke apart so that you can get back to a whole person, a whole who you are. And sometimes you have to revisit those dark areas of your life to see what, you know, when you were hurt or when you started to feel like you have to wear this mask and be this person that you're really not, you know, but you keep being this person. And if you keep doing it year after year, you will your real self starts to die. You lose that individual underneath everybody else's expectations and your phoniness that you're trying to portray. So if you do that too long, you have a lot of work to do because you have to dig deeper underneath all that stuff that you created, you know, of what you wanted people to think you was, to really find out who you really are. And I say all that because that was part of my testimony is that I just kept smiling and doing this. And I knew I wasn't really all the way happy, but I just wanted people to think that I was happy, you know? So, but it wasn't until I started talking to, you know, people who really love me and care about me. And, you know, if people really care about you in your circle, they're like your real mirror, right? They're going to tell you the truth about yourself. Like, hey, you thought you was fooling us, but nah, girl, you really are, you know, you still look like your head to the left a little bit, you know? So you got to like be around those kind of people too, to help you to find realistic expectations of who you really are and show you like, hey, you don't have to be this person. You really are beautiful as this person, you know? So
I want to follow up. Yeah, no, yeah. I want to follow up on that. How was that conversation initially to admit that maybe I'm not as happy, you know, like maybe I'm not necessarily putting on or lying, but it's there is something that might be a little off center, right? Like when did that conversation happen for you?
You get tired.
Sure.
I think you get tired of showing up and acting like you're something when you're not. You get tired of it. And as an individual, you realize it. I mean, we're all human. And if you're tapping into every emotion God gave you, you're going to know that you're not being authentic. And sometimes it takes different ages. Some people say when you turn 30, a light bulb go off, 35, a light bulb go off, 40, a big light bulb go off. And I think as you mature, you start to say, wait, am I really happy? You know, and then you start evaluating what is not making you happy. And that's a hard conversation because sometimes it's people that you have to cut out your life. Sometimes it's atmospheres that you have to cut off, and you don't want to do that. It's a difficult thing. But if it's really not adding to who you really want to be or your happiness, then it's something that's kind of a necessity in order to arrive at who your true self really is. So
perfect. Rosie, so chime in. So this conversation, this internal reconciliation point, right? How, you know, obviously I read the book, right? So I'm assuming, you know, but that doesn't mean, I think there's an unfair assumption that one point is inclusive of all points. I think it's an ongoing conversation, right? It's not like a one part truth and then the other just takes care of itself. But managing it, right? Like, how was that process for you?
So I have a kind of a different spin on expectations.
Sure.
Because I think I actually live my truth even though maybe some years ago I wasn't maybe living it to the fullest potential, but I've always been my authentic self. It's just that, situations that arise will kind of put a damper on things, and you may not be operating at 100, you may be at 75, but it's still an authentic 75. But this is where I kind of struggle. People, even since I was like younger, I've always had this expectation on me where I feel like I'm always trying to meet what I think that people are going to expect. So if I'm set to speak at church or speak in a group, they're expecting me to bring this greatness, right? So then I put on myself, like, you have to bring greatness because they're expecting this greatness. Same thing with the book. I was telling, me and Carrie had these conversations. I'm like, but is it really good? Or is it because if I'm putting it out there, people are expecting, like, okay, I need this to be really, really good. So then when I got feedback, it was like, okay, I lived up to what they thought they were going to get. So I guess that's the hardest part for me, is that everybody kind of around me can see this greatness on me.
Sure.
Then I don't always see it, but I know that I have to do the work to meet the expectation of what they're expecting to get when I speak, or, talk to them on a phone, or give advice, or at work, whatever the case may be. I need the best ideas and all of that, because that's kind of what the expectation is. And sometimes it's overwhelming, because today I was talking to my boss. I'm like, I probably should have stayed the program manager, because this deputy position is a lot. And he's like, oh, but you got it. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes I don't got it, but that's the expectation that, Candies she can do this. If anybody can, she can. But that's a very difficult place to kind of be in, because you're always expected to be on, the best, that's what's set on me. So that's probably my most difficult part. Really not the authentic self. It's the pulling out what people are expecting to get.
Carrie, you was going to say something? I saw the hand.
Yeah, I was, because listening to her, and back to something I was saying, sometimes you can't see your greatness, and it is natural. So you might think that you have to work extra hard for an expectation that is really a natural gift of you. So while you're thinking, oh, I gotta do all this extra, your regular is great. Like, I don't think, like, even when I was helping you do your book, it was natural. It wasn't like, oh, we got to put this extra word in here. We got to put this extra story. Your regular words, your regular story was amazing. So I think sometimes the expectation may be coming from yourself and not from everybody else. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it does. So I had and I'm going to take Rosie's stance on it. I think I had a differing revelation when it came to this. So for me, and something I've shared with my therapist, outside of a few people, my wife, my mama, and then my grandmama, right? So 3 people, right? So I don't think nobody really knows like me, or knows really what I can do, and I've only showed glimpses of it, only because I think there's a false expectation. I think when people look at me, they try to assume too much. I think they see my baldness, and something in their head triggers Bishop Marshall. And it's like, yeah, obviously, I'm his grandson, but we're not, we're different. We're very different. I mean, there's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences as well. And because there's this unvalidated assumption or familiarity, when I do go against the grain, it's seen as prideful, or right, like, why? Like, I'm bucking, but I'm not bucking. I'm standing, right? Like, because if you know me outside of this vein, you would realize, oh, this is who Cody Kelly really is. This is what he does. And I think there's been an adjustment period or at least I'm hoping that others just really start to see like not this kind of granular myopic view, right? And I think for the longest, I tried to just like, let me do it this way because, whatever. But I got to a point, I said, look, God is my creator, right? Like, I love Jesus. I truly love him. And I know he has endowed me with certain gifts that is not what I would say in the traditional sense. And I know I will never fully enjoy me and enjoy my purpose or even go after my purpose unless I really pursue these things, right? Like this pursuit is what's pushing me, and I have these, sometimes like, not like dreams, but visions of just doing things that I haven't done. It's the weirdest thing, right? It's like a predestined foreknowledge. I can't explain it, but it keeps me going. And it's weird when I explain it to people. And then I think what happens is people can only handle a version of you, right? So like if the version of you is a Ford, it's completely fine as long as it doesn't become a Bentley, right? Like and that version is fine. It's when this other thing starts to butterfly, then it's like, what's wrong with this insect, right? So for me, I think that the trouble is, and I'm gonna throw this question back to you, Rosie, is are people truly happy with your success? And I don't say that pridefully, right? But what I've learned, particularly in our culture, is misery loves company. If you get fired or whatever, folk will fast, pray over you, speak in tongues, moonwalk. They will do whatever it takes to be in your company. But if you ever level up on somebody, right? Like if you ever I'm good. Like you can't really sing the song by Dorinda, like, the economy's down because you be lying, like, well, not for me, like so, and it starts to be like, does anybody see this? So my question to you, Rosie, do you really think you have found happiness for your happiness for your success?
So you're asking, have I found it, or are people genuinely happy for whatever success they think that
or do you think that people are generally happy for where you're going without it being said?
Okay, so I think that my some of my immediate family, as well as some of my very, very good friends, right? I think that there's a level of like, we've always expected you to reach this level of success, so we're behind you with whatever you do. We're your number one, supporters. But I have to say, even within your family, right? When you think about extended, there's a sense of, what they say is, she thinks she's all that, or she whatever. And I have really just learned that that's not a my problem. That is a their problem. And I am not going to dim my light. I am not going to, lower the pole for people who are probably never going to dream, reach goals, attain success. Why would I do that? Right. But it's not I think I'm better. I think the issue is people think that certain people are better, and it actually reflects them like, I'm not doing what I should be doing, or I'm not where I should be. So how could they be genuinely happy for somebody who's dreaming, attaining goals, and having success stories when they're sitting on the couch? But what they fail to realize is success, you don't just wake up, roll out the bed, and it's like success.
Yeah.
They see the success, but they don't see the struggle, the tears, the sweat, the blood. They don't see any of those things. All they see is she made it.
Right.
And it's so much more when you do make it. It's easy to just not make it, right? I could just do nothing and just be nothing. There's no struggle. But when you're trying to get to a place and you actually arrive, I mean, nobody has arrived at success on accident. You don't accidentally be successful. There's always a story and a struggle to where you got, there's always a backstory. So I think that I have genuine people, around me, but when you get into the extension of family and all of that, it's, I've learned to live with certain things. I'm pretty genuine, have a big heart. I think I'm pretty funny. I could be a little direct, but for the most part, being like arrogant is just definitely, not one of my character, my personality traits or whatever, but others see what they see. So
I like that. Carrie, so you entrepreneur, you own your own home, you have this going on and that, really doing it in Atlanta. And I'm sure that can be misunderstood, right? Like and I think Rosie pointed it out, like sometimes people will only see this, and even if it's not true, right? Like, I don't know personally anybody that I aspire or look up to or in close proximity that have accumulated anything that have done it out of pride. It was a pain that kind of pushed them toward that marker. But they yielded a response. So for you that has done this, do you
just got done with chest day? I'm powering through. It's January. It's freezing out. I get it. The weather sucks, especially if you live here in the Midwest. But I get through it. Superpower pre-workout. This is my signature line. You can purchase it at www.cvmkglobal.store where all your signature supplement needs are met.
Do you think that they see, like, do you honestly, like, when you walk into a room, like, do they see me? And the only reason I really ask that, because like sometimes we're so used to not having that seeing something that we have never had is blinding, right? So like we can see 73rd, but seeing, a different side or Northbrook or, like saying Winnetka, like seeing that conversation like scares people, right? So Carrie, do people see you?
That's a trick question, I guess. Because I can always say I just always had the favor of God on my life. So only people who are truly in my Cheerio know my real story. Other people around me, they know something that's fictitious. They have their own little story of who Carrie is. And I've always, I guess, lived humble too. I never was the kind of person that would say, I mean, sometimes in conversations I forget I have a master's degree, literally, because I'm not the person that's talking about it. And I had to have a really close friend of me tap me on the shoulder, like, why do you always shrink yourself? Because I never want nobody to feel like I was conceited or I was better than them. I remember even when I was going to high school and I was going to Inglewood, and I knew that my parents was not Inglewood level parents. I didn't have the same struggles as these kids, but I could not say that I had more. I never wanted people to know, like, oh my God, they knew, like I always, and it kind of, I guess I have that same layer over me now in my life. Like I never let people know, like I never was the kind of person to post my car on the internet and say, oh, I got a brand new this car or that car or nothing. And it takes me a lot to put my accomplishments on social media. And when I do, I'm like, ooh, because I just never want to be seen as if I was trying to flaunt or, or anything like that. So I don't know what people think. I meet people all the time. They be like, oh my God, you're just doing so great. And this and this and that. I'm like, okay, yeah. But I know my true story. Right. I know what's really going on. I know my check account look like at this time and this time. But because of my life and what God has for me, my seasons change a lot. So you really can't keep up. You can't, I ain't gonna even lie. I ain't gonna try to be funny. Nobody can keep up with me because one season I may be at $0 in my account, but another season I may have 5 figures in it. I don't, it could vary because that's how good God is in my life and for me. Sure. So I don't even keep up my own story. So I don't know. I can't tell nobody how do you perceive Carrie, how you should perceive me, because just know that I'm favored. That's all I can say, because I can't tell you what season I'm in right now, because it could be a good one or a bad one, but you don't need to know that. I don't think people need to know. And I'm not the kind of person that's going to show either one. I learned to not do that. I used to be that person. Like I had this long story on Facebook. I'm struggling. And then I was, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, okay. He said, no, just stay still. Just had a one face. Nobody has to know what's happening. And so I don't know what face people see or know, but I know my like I said, close people know. They be like, but they still be saying the same thing. Like, dang, you don't look like your story. You don't look like what you're going through. Especially when it comes time for my podcast or anything, they be like, dang, you just switched it up. I'm like, yeah, that's what you got to do, But I don't know, I'm talking too long now, but yes.
No, you're good. You're good. Let me.
Can I add something, Cody? Before you go for it.
Yeah.
I think that it is so interesting, and I don't know because I am just Black, right? Sure. So I can't speak for other cultures, right? But in our culture, it is so, I guess, weird to me that we have this place where you have to be humble. Right. And you can't boast. But who told us that? Like I remember being in a leadership training, and they were saying, like, when you're in middle management, of course you don't talk up yourself to people that are below you, but you should be talking yourself up to people that you report to, because how do they know what you're doing? Of course, you don't want to do that with the people that report to you, right? But you should be sharing the accomplishments that you have with those that are higher up. That is one of the most uncomfortable things for most of us. Like when it's like, all right, tell me about yourself. We like, my name Candies. I got 2 kids. Why aren't we confident enough to share? Is it because others can't handle it? Or we've been, programmed to dim our lights? Like, what is that? And I'm not sure that other cultures kind of struggle with that. Of course, being Black is very different from being like African, right? Because they kids, hey, the expectation is you go be a doctor, engineer, or whatever, lawyer. That is what is accepted. And if you bust out with, I want to be an interior designer. What? No, you can't be an interior designer in this family. You gotta be a doctor, So I just think that why is it for us? It's like this unaccepted thing that, again, we are minimizing ourselves to meet who has this standard for us that we're trying to meet, where you can't speak highly of yourself? Who said we can't speak highly of ourselves? That's not really being prideful or boastful or arrogant. Right. It means that, hey, I actually did this. I do have a master's degree, or you did write a book. I mean, it's real. Right. Yep. It's not make believe, but we just kind of give you a little bit. Oh, I'm saved. I love God. I got 2 kids. Just we tend to tap on those things versus our real accomplishments. So I just think that that's very interesting.
I agree. I think the separation in the historical sense, enslaved Africans, so Black people here in the U.S., I think we have been socialized and not just from slavery, but from after post-slavery, that success is ultimately evil. We've demonized success. And maybe because every time we've tried in a collective sense to do something, it's been snatched from us. So any mention of it is like heresy, right? Like, you can read, I know it sounds ignorant, but it's like any mention of progress is considered foreign. And really the only, things that we have been allowed to do safely and securely within our own communities is to, get, and there's nothing wrong with this, obviously, but, get saved, join the church, all handy dandy. And then the highest form of success lies within the pulpit. It's rare to say, when we celebrate those, and especially within the kingdom of God, that person is a business owner, right? We celebrate bishops, apostles, fivefold ministry. We don't celebrate others who are non-for-profits that generate the income to support the fivefold ministry, right? And the reality is it should be vice versa, or not vice versa, but it should be and, not either or, right? Yep. So I think we have created a toxic culture that you can only esteem to be so much, and anything above that is taboo. But there are exceptions. So sports is acceptable, right? Politics is starting to become more mainstream, but it's still taboo, right? And when you start venturing out and say, I want to do this too, we're quick to say either that person is not saved. The church, we'll throw a not saved label on somebody with the quick without understanding, or they full of pride. But in the world, it's crazy. I mean, they have a magazine dedicated towards success. It's called the Forbes list, which none of us made, right? And I love Black Bills.
Not yet.
Right. So we got there's an internal and external conversation that needs to happen that discusses why are we afraid to be free? And I still think we still struggle with freedom, like the realities of freedom. And it is just taking a toll. I want to throw this one to Carrie. You talked about the favor of God and trying to basically that this is me, the Lord has worked and done this thing in my life. What part of the favor matched your fervor? And what I mean by that, sometimes I think, and I'm gonna throw this one to you too, Rosie. Sometimes I think in the faith, we believe our spirituality alone is what unlocks the door. And the more that I deal with God, I realize God is not gonna dump money on your lap just because you praise him or just because you love him. He will give an atheist $1 billion because they've created something that can actually be sold, right? That can actually be monetized, that can actually do something than you who can, shout the church down. And even though the two might have two different eternal resting places, you still missed what you missed, right? So that favor, talk to us about how your fervor, your hard work, and your favor had to connect.
Well, what they say, faith without works is dead, right? So I think that you have to have, like you said, it's not an or, it's an and. You have to have a true relationship with God and also a true work ethic. I don't think God want to, I don't know if the Bible say this, but something, he talked about being lazy, right? That's not looked good upon, not to be a person that doesn't, labor. But so I think that you have to have both. You have to give your best and know that God will bless you with the rest. As people say, do your best and God will do the rest. So I feel like you have to put in the work and then expect for God to put his more blessings on it. And that's by having a relationship with him, because you may get something that's not a lot. You're like, oh man, this is not a lot. But I know God, God, I know you're going to bless me or you're going to make it greater. And he'll do that because you took that contentment, just like Paul said in the Bible, and I'll be content in any state that I am. And I think if you take the mentality of being content when you don't have a lot and when you do have a little, that same favor God will provide on each level because he understands your heart and how you are. And so, excuse me, that may be part of the reason that I was just, when you were saying that I don't think that I am not, I don't want to say boastful, but I agree with Candies that even when you do meet Africans from Africa, they are happy to say, I'm a king, I'm a queen, I come from this family, this is what we got going on. They're happy to say it. So I guess, I don't know if slavery came, like you said, and we just felt like, oh, well, we can't tell master what we really got going on, or we can't tell this person because they're going to tell everybody else, and then they're going to come find out and bust our door down, So I don't know where it came from, but to me also, I think about God too. I was like, God gave me what I have. So I don't know. Sometimes I don't feel right saying like, oh, I got this and this and that, because I don't want God to think that I'm ungrateful or I am also being boastful. You know what I mean? So it's like such a fine line. But I say that you can't do this life without a relationship with God, because God is the one that will make a little a lot and a lot more, right? And like for me, I know it's more to come. And like you were saying, people would think that I don't know, you said something, but I think when I talk about, sometimes I used to talk about what I wanted to be when I was growing up, when I had these ideas. I still got business plans and everything kind of stuff in my cell phone. And people would say I was crazy. They thought I was crazy. Like, how you gonna do all that stuff? My parents said, Carrie, you can't do all that. And I'd be like, why can't, I used to think like, okay, well, am I crazy? So I stopped telling people like all my ambitions and all this stuff that I be thinking about, how great I think I am. Like, I really felt like, like Oprah said, I knew something was different about me as a child. But when I told people, they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what? Like you said, taboo. That's what you said. They looked at me like, no, that's not possible. So, and that goes back to your original question. I had to take those expectations off of me too. And that took a while. People telling me I can't go outside this box. And I'm like, well, and I mean, close family members telling me, girl, you always been a lofty thinker. And these things to me are not lofty. They're like very much achievable things. If you work hard at it, you should be able to see. And then, like we just talked about, God will come. And also, if this is part of his will for you, he will open the door that would exceed your expectations of what you thought you could do because you took the first step. So I don't know. I just said a whole lot there, but
you're good. You're good. I like it. I like it. Rosie, your fervor and your favor. I'm sure you have other things and other plans and initiatives like any creative mind. When anything is released and you realize your baby can stand on his own two legs, like this thing is for real, this is valid, something says you can do another thing. Like it's weird. It's like once you find out how to win, you can just keep doing it. Like it's this weird thing. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that process of when fervor and favor meet, because I think, and Carrie can attest to this, I think a lot of people assume too much and they don't realize how hard it is to be you. Like it looks, but it don't look, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody walked into me in church and it was like, I'm gonna start working out. And I was like, yeah. And I kind of chuckled. I didn't mean to chuckle out loud. I meant to chuckle in my mind. It just came out of my mouth because, and I was hoping that the mask would have covered my sound, but it didn't. But I was thinking like, do they realize I get up every day at 4? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they realize like, I didn't wake up like this, like Beyonce lying, like this is practice, like right. So talk to us about that fervor and favor.
So one of the things that I do at the beginning of every year, I know people are doing, New Year's resolutions. I know people are trying to eat healthy. They're exercising, everybody's in the gym, and then, by March, all that's gone out the window, right?
Right.
What I actually do is I take to heart like vision boards, right? Mm-hmm. So I write down, and if I don't do this, my year is kind of like thrown off, right? So every year at the beginning of the year, I've already done it already. I write down things that I want to achieve in that year. And it's okay if there's overlap. Well, like I want to do this. It didn't happen. It can go back on the board, right? So we're not throwing it out. We're keeping it there. And it's just, I may have to do it next year. That has been, I guess, my discipline to be able to stay focused. And at the end of the year, look at this board and say, I did that. I did this. I did that. Like this year, well, last year, because we're already in 2022. But my main focus was my book, and I wanted to decorate my office because I hadn't done that really before. And it was something else I wanted to do. Oh, and I got a promotion. right? So I got to scratch those things off my list and put a date next to it. Now, for other people, it's just like, dang, she got a promotion. Now she wrote a book, but that took a whole lot of hard work and preparation. They're not giving out promotions to people every day. So it's the hard work. And of course, I'm trying to say yes to God. That's the biggest thing. So the natural sense, I'm doing the hard work. But when it comes to that spiritual side, I really want to tell God, no, I don't want to do that. No, I really want to tell him no, right? Yeah. So I have to work on like, okay, I'm gonna just say yes. I'm gonna just say yes. Because in my eyes, why would you give me this? Like, I don't want to do this. You know, like this is so far-fetched. Like, why would you give this to me to achieve? So I had to work on, so my spiritual part is just saying the yes, because God already got it lined up. On the other side, I'm already working hard, doing everything I need to do so these two worlds can come together. But it is definitely hard on both sides. It is hard for me to tell God yes. I don't know for other people, but for me, that's one of the hardest things. I'm always trying to tell him no. Hey, I want you to do this. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And then I was like, hey, you can't be disobedient. You know, I get mad at my son because I'm like, hey, you so disobedient. But I was thinking like, I'm disobedient because there are things that God wants me to do. And because of fear or whatever the case may be, I want to tell him no. But I've learned, like, you just got to say yes and trust him. Like that, you know, some people say do it scared. And I've done that a lot of times. So it is not this easy task, you know, for me to say yes. I can work hard, but to tell God yes on the other side, it's like, okay. Yeah.
I agree. Telling God yes is something that, you know, Pastor Evans has to pray over me continuously. Because I'd be like, you know what? I'm not trying to wear a suit, Pastor. He'd be like, Cody, I'm like, hey, I'm just being honest. So I totally agree. I've been working on some of my things. Like, look, you know, let me be obedient. Let me not do that. But the older I get, I realize that obedience will save you from not only repentance, it will save you from wasted time. And since you know, time is something you can never recapture, you know, it's needed to just kind of fall in line. So that's something individually I'm working on. Like, I want to be yes in all things. You know, my yes is great until, you know, it's chest day, you know. Like, my yes is, you know, I'll be the first one to say, look, my yes to the Lord is great, but something about the Migos, when I hear we set the trends, I forget everything about, you know, Genesis to Revelation. I don't even know, like, it be popping in my head too during communion, just at the weirdest time. So it has been an amazing episode featuring two amazing leaders. Y'all connect with them. One last question for each of them. Y'all can give y'all sign-offs. 2022. Your hope for yourself. Like, if there's something that, you know, and I'll start with you, Carrie, and then you, Rosie. Like this, like, if there's something, you don't have to be so specific, because if you got this over, you know, goal or whatnot, and you want everybody to know, that's completely cool. But it said there's this one thing that I'm gonna get done in 2022. What is
it? For me, it would be being my authentic self.
Gotcha.
And walking into that whole glory of it. Like I was saying, there's some things that I want to do, but I had no problem saying yes to God, but it was always like, well, if I do this, then what's going to happen next? You know, I'm always thinking about the next part, and it blocks me from doing anything. So I do want to arrive this year. Like, I really want to arrive into my whole being of who I want to be. And I want to shed off all the fears, the opinions, the expectations, and just walk into my authentic self and see what that looks like. Like, how great can that be? You know, can I still make the can make the 40 under 40, or not just when I won't be able to make that.
Yeah.
But, can I make it to the Forbes magazine cover or Black Enterprise, things that I've always had on my vision board, So I have things on my vision board that are, apple, what they say, you can pick them off the tree real, what's that, low hanging fruits on my vision board. But I have things too that are really there. Like I really want to start getting there to those things that I want to be. I've always wanted to be something. And I've met people, like I was on a cruise all the way on this little small boat somewhere, going to another island. This guy said, "Your name gonna be in lights." I don't know this guy. So it's all these things I keep getting prophesied, or little seeds dropped in my spirit. And I just want to align myself to being that person, and stop being stand in the background, but just let God do what he want to do.
Amazing. Rosie, that one thing, what is it?
So actually, can I have two? But
sure, go for it.
So one thing is, I am going to be vulnerable and allow love to feel my life. Hopefully it's an individual that can, feel that. But
is there an announcement coming?
No.
You can do it, Robinson. This would be the perfect time. Let me get the inside scoop right now. Who's this lucky fellow?
No announcements, but I think that love is so vulnerable, and that's so sometimes far away from who I am. I don't like really being vulnerable, but I'm gonna take a chance. Love is a risk, right? That's something that I want to be in a place to allow it to happen if it happens, right? The other thing is, I really, now that the book is done, I am going to pour into my children, and we're gonna start some kind of business, right? But I want them to see at an early age that sky is the limit. There is no ceiling. None of that exists. I want them to be able to share their story at a young age and say, I was a business owner at 10. I had my own company at 8. So that is what I am looking forward to in 2022, is really setting the stage for my boys to live in a world that doesn't limit them by skin color, by their name, how they look, any of those things. That is my focus for 2022.
Perfect. These are some amazing goals, and I know you all will complete them, and I will not share mine. But this has been an amazing episode. I know. I don't know. What's a goal? I don't know.
So when is this book coming out, Cody?
I know, right? That needs to be my goal. Finish it. I will make that a goal for 2022. It has been an amazing episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I have some amazing people. Candies, Rose, it is so hard because I know I'm so used to calling you Rosie. I'm like Candies, and when I say it, I'm like, oh, I feel like my mama's hand, because I've been thinking of Sister Wilson, and I'm like, I'm gonna get slapped if I call somebody and don't by their name, But Rosie, where can they connect with you and follow you?
So I am on Facebook, Candies Rose Bryant, on Instagram, Roses Are Red 7.7. You can also check out my website, candiesrose.com. And those are the places where you can find me.
Y'all follow her, buy the book, because when it becomes a movie, you'll be fresh out of luck. Then you got to buy the sequel. Carrie, where can they connect with you?
You can find me at Carrie Jemmi on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find me at Carrie J Real Estate. Also, I have a not-for-profit. I'm going to be doing some things with that, so watch out for that. But that's at www.impretty2.org. And also, you can find out more about me personally at www.carriejemmi.com. So, yeah.
Perfect. That's amazing. Y'all connect with them. Support her. She's in the A. Hit her up, especially if you're trying to find your dream home in Atlanta. Amazing. And then support her now. Or start a home, whatever home, support her, man. Hit her up. Support her not-for-profit as well. And then also your boy, CBNK Global Store. Did I tell you about this? This episode is sponsored by this company that I just happen to know. You know, it's an amazing place where all your fitness needs are provided. I have some amazing signature supplement lines that will help you get to the body that you want to have. Connect with me on Instagram, CVMK33, and on the business page at CVMK_global. And as always, the YouTube page at CV_K, where all content is seen, heard, and felt. I appreciate my guests, and until next time, thanks.